Warning: these stories contains words that may be disturbing for some viewers. Discretion is advised.
Hey guys, today we will talk about our entitled Karen. I sent a Karen to prison. Let's get started. This happened maybe 5 years back. I am a mailman, and my route consists of a single stop with 65 community boxes for a large gated community of 800 houses. Each community box has 8 to 16 mailboxes in it, 1 to 2 lockers for parcels, and an outgoing mail slot. Each box has a master lock that opens the entire front of the box so that I can access all of the mailboxes inside of it without having to open all of them individually. The boxes are set up in 4 rows, and it takes me about an hour to deliver to each row. I'm paid by salary, not hourly, so the faster I get done, the more per hour I get paid, which is a great incentive to find ways to cut time out of my day. One way I do this is that I will split the mail into 4 sections, 1 for each row of boxes, instead of bundling mail for each box individually. I then open all the boxes on that row, go through to the flats, magazines and legal envelopes and such, and then through with the letters, and then through with the packages, then lock everything up, and move on to the next row. I've been doing this route for 20 years now, and most of the people there know me by sight. I'm friendly with a few, and whenever someone I don't know approaches while working, I let them know my rules. You do not reach into any mailbox that I currently have open. If you need your mail now, and are unable to come back later, tell me which of the boxes your mailbox is in, and I will close it for you so that you can unlock your individual mailbox and get your mail from it. I will not deliver out of order, no matter how big a hurry you happen to be in, because the mail all comes in a specific order, and it is a pretty large waste of my time to have to dig through and find yours. And I do not permit children to be near any box that is open, because you never know what a kid is going to grab. And grab they do. I know from experience. I feel like these are reasonable rules to ask people to follow. So, along comes Karen. This being a rather wealthy gated community, you would think I would run into more of them, but the people there are usually really polite and respectful of my rules. So, you know the type. Slightly overweight, bleach blonde bob cut, pantsuit. Shoes that probably cost more than my mortgage payment. She walks right up to me as I'm just starting to unload everything from my mail truck and demands to know which mailbox is hers. Doesn't tell me her name. Doesn't tell me her address. Just walks up and demands to know which mailbox is hers. You might be wondering how she could possibly not know. When there's 800 mailboxes and 65 community boxes, it can be a little daunting to figure out which box is yours when you first move in. So, in this situation, there's a few questions I need to ask to figure out the best way to help someone. So I start with, have you received a set of mail keys yet? To which she replied,
I don't see how that is any of your business.
I explained to her that I needed to know if she had her keys yet, so I knew if I needed to grab my lock change kit and swap out the lock so I could hand her a new set of keys. She says that yes, she has her keys. Meanwhile, her son, probably 8 to 10 years old, is starting to pick through the mail I have already unloaded. I have kids. I know how to talk to kids. I told him that he needed to stop playing with the mail. Not loud. Not mean. But firm. Karen absolutely exploded over this. She started screaming about how I had no right to order her son around like that. When she finally yelled herself out, I told her that what the boy was doing was called tampering with the mail. That is a felony, and as his legal guardian, she would be held responsible if he didn't stop. So she made a token.
Get away from there.
Comment to her kid, and he moved off to play on the grass nearby. So, I got all of her info, and showed her which box was hers. It was in the last row, so I wouldn't be getting to it for a few hours. She opened it and found all of the mail that had come for her before she got her key. She flipped through it to make sure it was all hers. I keep meticulous track of who lives where, and who has moved out. So, I'd been pulling and forwarding all of the mail from the previous owner and delivering anything with a name I didn't recognize for a couple of weeks. I typically don't start delivering the weekly ads to boxes until someone has picked up their mail for the first time, because they can really pile up. She saw that there were no ads and flipped out, accusing me of stealing her mail and telling me she was going to drag my postmaster down there and get me fired. It was, in fact, our postmaster who had trained me when I first started. He was a carrier then. He was the one that told me to do that, and he tells all new carriers to do so to this day. I asked if she would like his phone number, and she started yelling at me for being a smartass. As she was doing that, her son started poking around in the mail again. Since this was his second warning, I was a lot sharper when I told him to get away from it this time, and he started crying. Like this 10-year-old kid. Crying like a 4-year-old. Talk about spoiled. Yeah, 10-year-olds cry, but not like that, and not from a little "hey, I told you to get away from that." I expect this kid has never been told no in his entire life.
How dare you yell at my baby? Don't you know who I am?
Karen screamed at me, and then slapped me full across the face. I've been hit before, but that one caught me so by surprise that I actually saw stars. I didn't think that was actually a thing until then. I was taught to never hit a woman, so I restrained myself, but told her that if she did that again, I was going to have to call the police, and I would be pressing assault charges, and that her boy needed to get away from the mail. She then told me that if I called the police, she would tell them that I tried to rape her. I was like, whatever, have a nice day, lady, as sarcastically as humanly possible. She just stood there. I was like, what? And she says,
What about today's mail?
I told her of my rules, and that I wouldn't be getting to her box for a few hours. She looked like she was going to lose it again, but just walked off in a frustrated huff. She didn't go far, though. She walked over a ways away from the mailboxes, and stood there like she was going to wait 3 hours for me to get to her mailbox just out of sheer spite or something. I was like, whatever, and went back to unloading. I opened up all the boxes on the first row and started deliver. Her kid came over for a closer look, and that's fine, as long as he stays back and keeps his hands to himself. Kids are curious, and often surprised by how the community boxes open up, and want a closer look. I told him that he could watch, but he needed to stay back. Thankfully, Karen didn't hear this, or I imagine she'd be screaming at me again. I finished up the first row, and I looked over. Karen was still there waiting, and glaring at me like I'd murdered her family. Her son looked like he was about to drop dead of sheer boredom. And I don't blame him. Watching me deliver mail is not exactly the most entertaining thing in the world. I don't get why she wouldn't just go home and come back in a few hours. Like, what did she think she was going to prove by standing there and glaring at me the whole time I was working? So, before I got started on the second row, I made a quick call to my supervisor at the post office and let her know everything that had happened. She told me that if Karen should approach me again, I was to start filming her with my phone so that there would be video evidence if things escalated. That was what sealed Karen's fate in the end, and saved me from wrongful rape accusations, so I'm glad she told me to do it. So I get back to work, open all the boxes on the second row, and start delivering. The kid was back watching me, but this time, he moved right up to me and reached into one of the mailboxes as I put a magazine into it like he was going to grab the magazine. I grabbed him by the wrist, pulled his hand out, and pinned it to his chest with a finger, then told him in a very low, serious voice that if he did that again, things were going to get nasty. So what does the kid do? He reaches into the box, pulls out the magazine, and tears it in half. So, at this time I am at the absolute end of my patience with these people. I flipped my shit. I started yelling at the kid. I started yelling at the Karen. The Karen started yelling at me. I pulled out my phone and I started filming her. She went on a rampage. She started flipping all my trays of mail over, throwing it all over the place, throwing packages around, reaching into open mailboxes and throwing mail from them onto the ground. I got it all on film while I was trying to stop her. She kept saying, "Don't you put your hands on me or I scream rape." Then she pulls out her phone and calls the police. She tells them that the mailman has tried to force himself on her and she needs officers there immediately. As I am filming everything, it's like she doesn't even live in reality. Then she just stands there amid the mess with this triumphant, evil little smile on her face, like, "I got you and I know it, now I'm gonna watch you burn." I stopped filming and called my supervisor. My supervisor called the police and the postal inspectors, who have the same authority as U.S. Marshals, and handle all mail-related crimes. My supervisor shows up first. My supervisor gets there first. I explain everything that happened again, and I show her the video. She starts ripping into the Karen while the Karen keeps trying to say that I tried to rape her. My supervisor grabbed my phone and shoved it right up in front of her face and screamed, "Yeah, B-word, I can see that actually happened from the video evidence that shows nothing of the sort." The police showed up next and looked kind of at a loss for what they were supposed to do. The mail looked like a bomb went off. There's my supervisor screaming at Karen, and not even letting her get a word in. There's her kid happily opening up as many packages as he can get his hands on, which I didn't even notice until then. They finally decided that they'd gotten an attempted rape call, so they were going to cuff me and read me my rights, but my supervisor intervened, showed them the video, and told them what really happened. Then the postal inspectors showed up. Postal inspectors have no sense of humor. I think it's surgically removed when they take the job. They also do not take bullshit from anyone. They looked at the mess. They looked at the video. They took my statement. They arrested Karen for tampering with the mail and for allowing a minor in her care to open mail not addressed to her. My supervisor had to send 4 other carriers over to help clean up the mess, and we were there well after dark getting it all sorted out and put into the boxes. Quite a few of the other residents had gathered to watch, and some stuck around to chat a bit while we were cleaning up. I explained what all had happened, and some of them were well aware of Karen and what a complete Karen she could be. So, Karen went to trial. I was brought in to give my version of events. In the end, Karen was sentenced to 3 years in prison and had to pay a $250,000 fine. And I got a week off work to deal with my own anxiety over the whole thing. People, I don't care how pissed off you are, or what you think you're doing. You do not F-word with the mail. You will go to prison for it. What do you think about this? Comment down below your opinion and please like and subscribe for more videos.